Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I'm going to be planting this beautiful shrub. So this is a Ruby Spice Summersweet Clehtera. This is a beautiful shrub. I've never actually grown one of these before, but I'm really excited to have it in my yard. It gets big long spikes of white blooms in late summer, so you can see they're kind of starting to form up here. So this will turn white and be a long spike. Pollinators are supposed to just adore this. It gets a bright, they call it flaming yellow, which I can't wait to see what that actually translates to in the fall. So the foliage and the stems, I think a little bit too, turn yellow in the fall. It's supposed to be just a really great hardy shrub. It's hardy down to zone 3. I'm on the border of zone 3, kind of edging into zone 4 where I am. So this should do really well here. It gets, I believe it's between 4 and 5 feet tall and wide, and it can handle sun and shade. So it's pretty adaptable. It prefers a little bit of acidic soil, which can be a bit of an issue for me here, but I have rhododendrons and hydrangeas that I also tend to need to go and put a little bit of acidifier on over the season a couple of times. My soil's not super alkali, but it does tend to need, for plants that like a little bit more acid, I do tend to need to add a little bit. So I'll just watch for yellowing of the leaves and dark veining, and I'll know then that it's needing a little bit of acid, but I'll probably just hit it when I go around and hit the rest a couple times a year. And that seems to do it for them. I'm going to put this in this area of my yard that used to be very full of evergreen shrubs, and they were mugo pines, and they were just getting overgrown, too big. I never pruned them and took care of them properly when they were young, and they were just getting out of control. And then now every time we get heavy snows, which is a lot, especially here, they were starting to get really weighed down and just not looking their best, and starting to encroach on some of my flower beds. So I trimmed them way back, and they still looked kind of fresh down at the bottom. So I left the little bits there, and they might come back, but I'm going to put this in that area anyways. And I should be able to, if the mugos do come back, keep them contained now that I know more about that. And I think they'll do well. There's also a chokecherry tree in that area. This is going to go kind of behind that chokecherry. And I think that'll be a nice spot. It should get some shade, some afternoon shade, lots of morning sun. I think it'll be really happy. One more thing to note is they do like a moist area, and that area can get a little bit dry sometimes, but I can, if I know that something needs extra water there, I'll just make sure that it gets extra water there. So I'm not too worried about that. So I'll show you the space, and then we'll get this planted. Here's a little bit of a backed up view of the space we're going to be planting. So you can see right there is the chokecherry tree. It has beautiful purple leaves on it. Right now it's full of berries, so I might have berries dropping on my head while I'm planting. And to the side over here, this is where my greenhouse and my peppers and all that are over there. And down this way is a flower bed with my patio off in the other direction. So I think this will be great. There is some dahlias planted in front there. Those are just for this summer, so it's just something to fill in that space for this summer. So they won't be getting in the way. Dahlias have to be lifted every fall in my area, so I'll just put them somewhere new next year. But if you come in closer, you can see the mugo pines there. So there's one right there. There's one off to the side there. They're suckering from this tree that I need to keep under control. And then there's another mugo right there. And you can see probably here how big the branches were that I cut off. I think you can see those stumps there. So these are pretty big shrubs. They were up at least 4 feet, I think, and filled in this space quite a ways. So it'll be interesting to see how they do with being cut back so hard like that. But there's been a couple weeks now that they've been like this, and they actually seem like really green and really healthy, and I swear they look better than they did when I cut them back. There is a little clump of iris. I'm not sure how it was surviving back in there, and one little lilies come up everywhere in my yard. There's a little bit of columbine trying to grow back there. So I've had things planted. There was supposed to be a ligularia there that just never grew. It just was overrun with the pines they were coming in, they were actually leaning over so far that these speedwell, it was actually underneath the pines, and I had forgotten it even existed until I got them all pulled back. So I think the plants in this area are going to be much happier. And then I think you can see there is where I put the Summersweet. So it'll go back in there right behind the tree, which kind of seems odd to me, but I think it'll work when I get it there and plant it in and it starts to really grow and fill in. I think it'll be really nice back there. And I'm hoping to get a couple of, I had wanted to get some hollies for in here, but I just cannot locate them here. They're borderline hardy here, and I think the garden centers just must not carry them here. So I'm thinking maybe some smaller like gold willows or something to bring a bit of yellow in here would be nice. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm just still kind of looking around at what's available and what I find as I wander the garden centers. And we'll just let this area evolve as I find what works instead of just pushing it and trying to fill it in right now. But I'm going to get this Summersweet planted. I'm really excited to get it in the ground. So I've already pasted out, measured it out to make sure that this shrub will get the space it needs to get to its full potential here. And so this is the spot right here. Now this ground is a little uneven right here. This is one of those areas, I don't know, does everyone have this or is it just me? When I'm digging out and I come across a lot of clay and things in my yard and I just need somewhere to put it, then sometimes I just was dumping it back here because it was an out of the way spot in my yard. And I thought, well, maybe it would help suppress the suckering of this tree, but it does not do that. So I need to just kind of move some of the soil around. I'll just spread it out here a little bit more, and then I'll dig my hole and get it in. When you're digging a hole for a shrub, you want to go about twice the width of the can that the shrub is in, but you want to go at the same depth that it's growing in the can. So it looks like for me, I'm going to need to go down about 10 inches, 20 centimeters, I think that is, and 16 inches around, which would be around 40 centimeters around. So I'll get this leveled out a little bit because they do want moisture. That'll be good to have this. I might even build a bit of a berm with this extra soil so that I can be putting water in here so it holds the water a little bit for it. And then we'll get the hole actually dug. This worm has itself tied in a knot. Can you see that? Another worm over here. Lots of worms in here. It's good soil. I don't add any amendments to my soil when I'm planting a shrub, as far as a lot of extra compost or peat moss or special soil of any sort. My soil is heavy clay. It's been improved over the years as I've been adding compost and wood chip bark mulch on top and things like that over the years. So it's loosening up a little bit, and it does drain fairly well. And clay actually has a lot of good nutrients in it, lots of good minerals, lots of good things for plants to grow. It's just that it can be really hard to grow in if it doesn't drain well. Mine does seem to drain fairly well in most parts of my yard. And it's better to have the plant just finding the native soil right away and working its way into it, instead of finding just this sweet spot of really beautiful, perfect soil and then never wanting to reach its roots out any further. The soil that I've dug out of here is going to be a little extra fluffy. It's going to be a little easier for the roots to move into, and that'll just accustom them to that new soil as they move out into the soil that hasn't been disturbed and is a little bit harder for them to push out into. That's the theory. That's how I do it. I'm just going to take this, and I've got my hole at a good size. It's about twice the width of the tree can that it was in and about the same depth. So I'm just going to look quick. I think I have it sitting the way I want it, but I'm just going to set it in the hole, and I'm just going to step back and have a look and see if I like the placement of it from standing out in the yard, because really that's where I'm going to be looking at it. I'm not going to be standing back against this fence looking at the shrub very often. So I did turn it. It's good to have a look now before I have it buried in soil, before I decide I don't like the side that's facing out as much as another side. So I think that'll look nice now. It's growing more evenly in this direction. It's still kind of awkward behind the tree, but I really think in the end it will be the perfect spot for it. There's not a lot of shrubs that can take shade too, so it's going to be great. So now that I have it placed the way I want it, I can just backfill the soil. And I just want to see if I have big clumps. I'm just going to see if I can break them up a little bit, just to help so there's no air pockets that form around them. So I'm going to fill it about halfway. And then I'll water it in really well. So now that I've watered it in really well, and I know that that soil is all settled and there's no air pockets down in that lower part, I'm just going to backfill right up to the level that it was growing in the pot there. And while I was putting the water on it, I went and took the kind of grower tag off of it that has all the information and pictures about the plant. And I like to take those inside, and I have a little spot where I keep them, and I label them with the date that I planted them and the location they are in my yard. I find that's a good way for someone like me who has trouble remembering the names of the plants and things to kind of keep track of things. I've been doing that the last few years, and it's been very helpful. There is a tree tag that's just the little one that wraps around the trunk, and I also moved that up. Those stay on loose, so they're fine to leave on as long as you watch as the stems grow, that they're not cutting off the growth to the plant at all. And I left that on, and it'll be there for the next few years at least. And I just move them around as I need to keep the tree safe from being strangled by that little tag. But the one with the elastic on, those really need to come off because they're not healthy for the plant to have those sitting on there. Now I'm just building a bit of a berm up around the edges of this planting area, so it'll just hold a bit more moisture. And I don't have any mulch right now, but I will try and get my hands on some bark mulch to really fill in this space. It'll help keep the weeds down in this area now that I don't have the mugo pines covering it up. I'm sure there's a lot more weeds that are going to want to grow here, and it'll help to keep the soil moist down here around this sweet spire, so it'll be a good thing to have. So now that I have my little berm built here, I'm going to just water this in really well again, give it a really good drink, and then because this is a new fresh shrub planting, I will be coming in and watering it every few days really deeply for the first week, and then probably about once a week I'll give it a real deep drink for this season. And then after that, I'll just pay attention to it. And if it seems like it's not getting enough water, if it's wilting down, especially in the mornings, if it's looking wilted after a cool night, then I'll know that it's needing more moisture back here. And that's all I'll be getting. Like I said, I also will probably need to come and put a little bit of soil acidifier on it once in a while in the growing season. And I just use a water-soluble acidifier. And like I said, I use it on my hydrangeas and my rhododendrons as well. So it won't be a big deal for me just to get one more. I don't know if you can see Buster. He's being crazy back there. But I'm really excited to see this shrub grow. I think the blooms poking out behind this tree are going to be magnificent, brighten up this kind of dark shady corner. And again, in the fall when that yellow foliage comes out, again, just brightens up this shady spot back here. And when you have a dark purple leaf tree, they are beautiful, but I always find it just seems a little bit darker in that area. You know, you need something that's a little bit brighter underneath it, and I think this is going to do the trick. And like I said, if I can find some like little small like gold willows or something, that would be really nice under here as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.